The Confessor's chair. The damp air of the dungeon clung to Father Anselmus Robes as he descended the spiraling stone stairs. His steps were slow, deliberate, and heavy, not from his physical burden, but from the weight of his conscience. The year was 1324, and the Inquisition's reach stretched across Europe, pulling countless souls into its grasp. In the torch-lit chamber below, the tools of his grim work gleamed in the flickering light. Iron spikes, wooden racks, and twisted contraptions lay scattered like remnants of a grotesque feast. At the center of the room's at the most infamous device, the Judas chair. Its wooden seat bristled with sharp metal spikes, each designed to pierce the flesh of the accused. Waiting in the shadows was the prisoner, a frail woman named Isolda. Her hands were bound, her face pale but defiant. She had been accused of witchcraft, a crime whispered by jealous neighbors and sealed by the church's need to root out heresy. Father Anselm approached her, the hem of his robe brushing against the cold, damp floor. "Do you understand why you are here, my child?" he asked, his voice low but trembling. "I am here because I spoke me mind," Isolde replied, her voice steady despite the iron chains around her wrists. "That is my only crime." The priest turned away, unable to meet their gaze. He had heard sick denials countless times before. And yet, something about their unwavering calm unsettled him. The Inquisitor, a tall man with a face like carved granite, entered the room. His presence was commanding, his authority absolute. He gestured to the Judas chair. "Father Anselm, proceed," he ordered, his tone devoid of emotion. Anselm hesitated. The church taught that the tools of interrogation were not cruelty, but instruments of salvation. To extract a confession was to save a soul. But he had seen too much, the broken bodies, the screams that haunted his dreams. Was this truly salvation? Reluctantly, he guided Isolde to the chair. She did not resist, thought her knuckles whitened as her fists clenched in silent resolve. When she was seated, her weight pressed her flesh against the spikes, and a sharp intake of breath caped her lips. "Confess, and this will end," Anselm urged, his voice cracking. Isolde met his eyes, her own filled with pain but also with defiance. "What would you have me confess, Father? That I am what you fear? That I wield powers beyond your understanding? Or is it enough to admit I am a woman who will not bow?" Her words echoed in the chamber, cutting deeper than any blade. The Inquisitor stepped forward, impatient. "If she will not speak, we will have other means." He gestured toward the rack, where ropes and pulleys waited to stretch a body until its joints tore apart. In the corner, the Iron Maiden stood closed, its spiked interior promising a slow, excruciating death. Anselm felt his stomach churn. He had seen men and women twisted beyond recognition, their cries pleading for mercy that never came. He had watched the pair of anguish force open the mouths of the accused, and the scavenger's daughter crushed hairlimes until bone splintered. And for what? Rarely had a confession been anything but desperate lies, spoken only to escape the torment. But today, as he looked at Isolde, he felt something break within him. "No more," he whispered. The Inquisitor turned sharply. "What did you say?" "No more," Anselm repeated, louder this time. He stepped between Isolde and the tools of torture, his hands trembling but firm. "This is not Godesorg. This is not justice. If saving a soul requires the destruction of a body, then we are the sinners." The Inquisitor Shaez narrowed. "You question the will of the Church. I question the will of men who act in its name," Anselm replied. For a moment, the room was silent, save for the distant drip of water echoing through the dungeon. The Inquisitor's face darkened, and he gestured to the guards. "Arrest them. He wills it in the chair next." Anselm did not resist as the guards seized him. As he was forced into the Judas chair, he met Isolde Shaez's last time. There was no fear in them, only gratitude. When the spikes pierced his flesh, he did not scream. He closed his eyes and prayed, not for himself, but for Isolde, and for every soul that had been lost in the name of salvation. The church would go on, its tools of terror claiming countless more lives. But in that dungeon, for one brief moment, the machinery of cruelty had faltered. And Anselm's body would not survive, his defiance would echo through the ages, a reminder that even in the darkest times, there were those who dared to say, "No more."